Welcome to this video about the third conditional. But wait, why don't we start with a recap about the conditionals? As you probably know, in the zero conditional, you express two clauses, in this case, for example, in present. If you pull the switch, the machine shuts down. In the zero conditional, you keep both the cause and the effect in the present tense. You don't change tenses there. It's the most basic conditional. In the first conditional, also called future real, you express an idea in the present. For example, if you study hard every day, and a possible consequence in the future, you will achieve great things. So the first conditional is always present, future. Finally, the second conditional is used for hypothetical situations. For example, you can say, if you were the president, you would destroy the country's economy. Notice how you have to use the verb in the past tense in the cause, because in English you use the past tense for hypothetical situations also. And now let's talk about the third conditional. The third conditional is also called past unreal, because yes, it has to do with things that happened in the past, and you create hypothetical situations about that, about the past. So with the third conditional, you can express a regret from the past. For example, if I had told you the truth, I wouldn't have lost your trust. Or if he hadn't made that comment, he might have stayed in the company. Of course, it's too late. You cannot change any of these things, all right? So that's why the third conditional is about the past, hypothetical situations in the past that you cannot change anymore. You can also talk about past mistakes. For example, if you hadn't cheated on the test, you wouldn't have been in trouble back then. If you had stayed sober at the party, you could have made some friends. So of course, you did cheat on the test. So back then, you got in trouble. So obviously, you didn't stay sober at the party, and you didn't make any new friends. Something that is very important that you remember in the third conditional is that you use in the cause the past perfect. So you always use have. If I have, if you had, if he had. This is something that many times is either forgotten or misused. Sometimes people say if I have, but not for the third conditional. You in the third conditional, for all the pronouns, you have to use have. Now in the consequence, you can use would, could, or might, similar to the second conditional, but you need to add have, because in the consequence, the third conditional is would, or a model, plus present perfect. By the way, this is also called a model in the past. So don't forget, would have, could have, might have. Don't forget have in the consequence. So let's take a look at some examples. If I hadn't drunk so much, I wouldn't have had a headache. She might have liked me, or I could have woken up early. So as you can see, none of these things happen. Like, I have a headache, she didn't like me, and I woke up late. That's what really happened. So in the third conditional, you fantasize. If he hadn't said that, well, she wouldn't have gotten so angry. He might not have felt so bad the next day, or he could have kept her as a friend. One more. If you hadn't cheated on the test, you might have passed with a lower grade. You could have made a better decision, or you might have avoided more trouble. Now let's start with the consequence. You would have learned a lot if you had studied a few minutes after class every day. If you had spent less time in the school's cafeteria, or if you hadn't watched so much television in your youth. Now, in the third conditional, sometimes you can also use the model should. So let's talk very quickly about the use of should. In these cases, well, in the third conditional, you create a hypothetical consequence for each of these situations. But when you use should, that's not necessary. You only express the regret and that's it. One single clause. Look at this example. If I hadn't drunk so much, instead you can also say, I shouldn't have drunk so much. That's it. You don't need to imagine the hypothetical consequence here. You regret the original action that got you in trouble. I shouldn't have drunk so much. So, what about the second one? If I hadn't said that, I shouldn't have said that. If I had saved some money, I should have saved some money. So as you can see, when you use should, you can just directly express the regret and that's it. There is no need to present, actually, you don't present a consequence to this. So that was a summary. The third conditional is also called past unreal, because you talk about hypothetical situations in the past. The cause is expressed with past perfect. That's why you need to use have, alright? The effect, you use a modal, would, could, or might, with a present perfect, which is also called a modal in the past. Since for the effect you need to use the modal and the present perfect, it's necessary to say would have, could have, or might have. You can use should to express regrets. And remember, don't forget to use have in the cause. This presentation was brought to you by Overpriced Phone. If I hadn't bought one years ago, I would have had some money for the rent. And remember, practice makes perfect. Thank you for watching. See you in the next video.